All right, chromosomes.
Wait a second, I'm not ready.
So chromosomes are Tyler. Chromosomes are found where? Where in your body?
Your brains.
Well, they're in more than your brain. Cells? Every cell. Where in the cell? In the nucleus. So chromosomes are located in the nucleus of our cells. They are really little packets of DNA and protein. That's what a chromosome actually is. And the DNA in the chromosomes is what really makes us who we are. All of the DNA in your cells basically has the instructions about how to make you who you are. Your DNA controls almost all of your appearance. Parts of our personality and other factors are controlled by those chromosomes. So there are instructions on how to build you. And every cell in your body that has a set of chromosomes has the exact same information. One cell from your skin or one cell from your intestines has the same DNA in it, even though they're different parts of your body. And they all have the full set of instructions about how to make you who you are. And that's true of all animals. The DNA are the instructions to build and how that living organism works. And the chromosomes are what are passed on from parents to their offspring. You inherit half of your chromosomes from your mother and the other half from your father. Bless you. And we already talked about chromosome number. How many chromosomes in a human?
46.
46 chromosomes. 23 of which came from your mother and 23 from your father. They're in pairs. And now we're moving beyond just talking about humans, and other animals have different numbers of chromosomes. A cat, for example, has 34 chromosomes. Is the number of chromosomes always an even number?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it has to be, because they come in pairs.
Wait, but you said that it could be like 23 and 20.
23 pairs,
No, but
so
before,
46 chromosomes.
before you said that like sometimes it could be messed up.
Yes, there are instances when there's a wrong number. We'll be talking about that today.
The goldfish are like
Raise your hand if you could tell me how many you think a goldfish has, Elizabeth?
5.
5, 2,
20.
20. All right, so most of you, except for Ryan, gave me small numbers. Why?
Because they're
Right. It's not about their intelligence. It's not about the size or the complexity. Chromosome number doesn't really have any relationship to either of those. Goldfish have 94 chromosomes. So the number is not important. It's what those chromosomes, the information they actually contain. All right, now we're going to talk for most of today about this diagram called a karyotype. A karyotype is a tool that generally doctors would use, and really what a karyotype is just a picture of the chromosomes in a person's cell, a map of someone's chromosomes. And they used to do this procedure by taking a sample of cells, taking a photograph of the chromosomes in the nucleus under the microscope, and then someone would actually cut them out with scissors, align them, match them up in pairs, and paste them on a piece of paper. Today it's done by computer, but the process is the same. So you would start with some sort of image like this that shows these chromosomes, and then you have to match them up so that they have their partners with them, and you arrange them by longest to shortest chromosome. You end up with something that looks like this. Okay, this is a finished karyotype. It shows all the chromosomes. You'll see there's, starting at pair number 1, the longest chromosomes, all the way up to the 23 pairs. They're stained, and that's why they have this pattern of bands across them. And what you'll see is they have partners. This chromosome matches up with this one. They're the same size, the same pattern to it. Now sometimes they're bent because they just weren't straight when they took the picture, but that's not important. What's important is the size and the pattern of those bands. And so they all have a partner, they all match up here. 23 pairs. Okay? And so, for this first set of chromosomes, one of these came from this person's mother, and one came from their father. Same thing for this one. One chromosome from the mother, one from their father. That's how we inherit our chromosomes. One from each pair, from your mother, one from your father. So there's 23 chromosomes from each parent. And then there's one special set of chromosomes. What you'll see is these are numbered up to 22, but there's no number 23. These are labeled a little differently. These chromosomes are called the sex chromosomes. And these chromosomes determine the gender of an individual. There's two types of sex chromosomes that a person can inherit, either an X or a Y. The X sex chromosome is pretty long, has lots of DNA in it. The Y chromosome is much smaller. It doesn't carry as many genes. That's the Y chromosome. Males have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. What do you think females have?
Just Y.
Just an
Y.
No.
Why just Y?
Yeah, everyone has two.
Z.
The order is not the order is not important. So YX and XY are the same.
Y.
Close.
Y.
XX. Females have two X chromosomes. So this individual shown up here, that karyotype, is of a male. Now, based on what we talked about when we talked about our last unit, is it the mother or the father that determines the gender of the child? It's one of them. It's not either.
The father.
Who could explain to me why it's one or the other? Anybody? Benton? Who is it first? Mother or father? What?
Mother.
No? Bianca?
It's the father because the females don't have the Y.
Exactly. So a female, when she produces egg cells and those chromosomes get split up, which of the sex chromosomes can she give to her egg cells? An X. That's the only sex chromosome she has. However, in the father, when they produce sperm cells, some of those sperm cells will get the X, but some of them will get the Y. About 50% of sperm cells will have an X chromosome in them, 50% will have a Y chromosome. And which of those sperm cells fertilize the egg determines the gender of the child. So it's the father, it's the male that actually determines the gender of the child. And this next slide will sort of show that. If we look at, these are body cells with pairs of chromosomes. We're just showing the sex chromosomes. Would this be a female or a male? Female. So after meiosis, when she produces egg cells, and these chromosomes get split up, all of the egg cells are going to get what? An X. That's the only option. That's the only sex chromosome present. All egg cells have an X chromosome as their sex chromosome. However, in the male, after meiosis, some sperm cells get the X, others get the Y. And so at fertilization, if this sperm cell fertilizes this egg cell, and it's going to produce a female. If it fertilizes this egg cell,
It's a girl.
same thing, it's a girl. But if it's this sperm cell that fertilizes the eggs, that forms males. So again, about half of the sperm are X, half are Y sperm, and which one it is will determine if it's a male or female. Actually, we didn't really talk about this in the reproduction unit, but sometimes a couple may use in vitro fertilization. They're having trouble having a child, naturally. They can do what's called in vitro fertilization, where they take egg cells from the female, collect sperm cells from the male, and actually fertilize the egg in a petri dish, in a lab. They actually take the sperm cell, insert it into the egg cell to fertilize it. And then they take that zygote, and then just implant it back into the mother's uterus where it can grow and she'll become pregnant and so on. It's called in vitro fertilization. And they can actually, if a person has in vitro fertilization, they can pick whether they want male or female because they can separate sperm cells according to whether they're X or Y sperm cells. And so if they want a girl, they'll fertilize it with an X chromosome. If they want a boy, they'll fertilize the egg with a Y chromosome. Sperm carry X or a Y chromosome, so sort of. Now these diagrams, these karyotype diagrams are often created for a fetus before it's born. Oftentimes the doctor and parents will want to know if there are any sort of chromosome abnormalities in the fetus as it's growing. And they can test that using a karyotype. And they can do some simple genetic testing as well. The procedure they use is called an amniocentesis. Okay? Amnio comes from amniotic fluid. In an amniocentesis, a pregnant woman, they take an actual sample of the amniotic fluid that surrounds the fetus. They do it with a very, very thin and very long needle that they put through her abdomen, into her uterus, into the amniotic sac, and they use a syringe to withdraw a small amount of this fluid. In that fluid, there are cells from the fetus. So they can look at those cells, they can make a karyotype diagram, they can see if it has the proper number of chromosomes, they can tell whether it's a boy or girl, they may do some genetic testing to see if it's affected by cystic fibrosis or muscular dystrophy or some other genetic disorders. And so the doctors and the parents know those things ahead of time before the baby's born. So that's how they do it. They use everyone always asks, well, how do they make sure they don't poke the baby with a needle? They use an ultrasound or sonogram at the same time so they know exactly where the fetus is, and they can be sure that they're putting the needle where there's no fetus.
Well, doesn't it hurt when they put the needle in?
Probably, yeah. I would imagine. All right. Now, there are instances in which a person is born with the wrong number of chromosomes. So we know that the proper number for a human is 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs. And so here you have a karyotype and you see everything. Now, these ones are best just because that's the position they were in when they took the picture. Doesn't mean anything's wrong. But does anybody notice anything about this karyotype? Bianca?
The 23rd chromosome has 3.
Yeah, the 21st chromosome here. Now if you look at these, there's 2 of each chromosome, which is correct. But then when you got to the 21st set of chromosomes, there's actually 3 of those. And that's what causes Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a chromosome abnormality in which a person is born with an extra 21st chromosome. Okay? What happens is sometimes in the formation of sperm or egg cells, normally the chromosomes get split, so each egg and sperm cell is 23. But every once in a while, one of those sperm or egg cells can end up with 1 extra chromosome. And if it gets fertilized, that can have a person born with an extra chromosome. And having that extra chromosome leads to some physical problems, okay, some mental delays, and the typical things that are associated with Down syndrome. And that's caused by just 1 extra 21st chromosome. And be found in all of their cells because it started off in the embryo as an extra 21st chromosome.
Do all syndromes have to do with these?
No, so that's one. So an extra 21st chromosome is called Down syndrome. There's another called trisomy 13, which is when a person's born with an extra 13th chromosome. There's Klinefelter syndrome or Turner syndrome, which are extra sex chromosomes. So there's a, sort of a handful or more than that actually. Down syndrome is by far the most common chromosome abnormality. The risk of having a child with Down syndrome increases with the age of the parents. So the older that the mother and father are, they have an increased risk at having a child with Down syndrome.
Is it possible to be born with 2 penises?
With what?
Like 2 penises?
I don't know. It may be possible. I don't know specifically, but it could be. There's lots of different abnormalities. Sometimes a child is born, do we talk about, with both male and female reproductive organs?
No.
That does happen.
Wait, could you get yourself
That
ready?
does happen, no. So that does happen fairly rarely, but sometimes a child is born with both male and female reproductive organs. It's called hermaphrodite. Generally, a person that's born like that is not fertile. That they have hormonal problems because they have both testes and ovaries, so they cannot generally get pregnant. They're generally, infertile. And usually what happens in that situation is the doctors, along with the parents, will generally decide based on, because usually the reproductive organs are not fully formed, or some will be more formed than others. They'll decide whether they're going to, sometimes they decide to remove the, Olivia. Sometimes they'll remove the male reproductive organs and then raise that child as a female. Other times they'll close up the female reproductive organs and leave the male parts and raise it as a male. But that's sort of a decision that the doctor and the parents make together. But it does happen once in a while, but it's fairly rare.
Can you like pee out of both?
No, it depends on how the child's born and exactly how the urethra is positioned within those organs. It just varies based on the anatomy of that actual person.
What if the sperm cell had one extra chromosome and the egg had one less chromosome?
It usually doesn't happen. I don't know of any instances, but there would most likely probably be some chromosomes because it would have to be the same chromosome that one's missing and one has. Like if the egg cell you said happened to be missing the 21st and the egg cell had an extra one, I don't know what would happen. All right, we got to move on now.
Oh.
All right, is this person a? So here's the 21st chromosome. Is this a male or female?
Male.
Female.
Male. X and a Y chromosome.
That
This
was a
person,
female.
another Down syndrome.
That's female.
That's a female.
Wait, how do you, is autism the same as
No, those are
How
two
do you get
different.
that?
Autism is sort of up in the air. Scientists don't have a real definitive cause of autism. They know that autism can be partially genetic because people in families where they have where autism has been in their family are more likely to get it, but it's not 100%. And so it's sort of something scientists are still looking at. Yeah. All right, let's look at these last two things here.
We're not done?
Nope. So, we're going to do this on your own, but we don't have a whole lot of time. So, what would you say? What does a karyotype show? How could you describe what a karyotype is actually showing you? Is that showing you, yeah, the person's chromosome. So if we look at this karyotype here on the right, is this showing a male or female? Raise your hand, please. Amy? It's a female. How did you know, Amy?
Because the 23rd is 2 lines.
Yeah, now they're not labeled here as XX. So we look at the 23rd set of chromosomes. This isn't labeled XX, but you can see they're obviously the same size. So they must be 2 X chromosomes, and they're longer. A Y chromosome is much smaller. So it has 2 X chromosomes. How about this karyotype? Raise your hand, please. Is this a male or a female? Bianca?
Male.
It's a male. Are there any abnormalities that you notice? Bianca?
It is
3 21st chromosomes, Down syndrome. And you know that